Motorbike, Sand and Passion, Lucy's Journey in Jaquaruna. Lucy was one of those people who, when she felt the wind on her face and heard the roar of her motorcycle, forgot everything. Living in a big city, she was always looking for new adventures to escape the urban chaos. It was during one of these searches that he heard about Jaquaruna, a place almost hidden on the map, known as the Sand Paradise. Place to get lost and find yourself, they said. Determined to explore this new trail, Lucy gathered her closest friends, all motorcycle enthusiasts, and planned the trip. Jaquaruna seemed the perfect setting to disconnect and perhaps find something new. Or someone. The route was challenging, but Lucy was ready for whatever came. She never imagined that this trail would not only lead her to stunning landscapes, but also to something that would change her life forever. On the first day of the trail, they could already feel the magic of the place. Clear sky, the fine sand that seemed to sparkle under the sun, and the sound of motorcycles echoing in the dunes. But Jaquaruna wasn't just about adventure. It was a mixture of calm and motivation, and this moved Lucy in a way she couldn't explain. Right away, she noticed that something was different. Perhaps it was the smell of the sea mixed with the warm sand, or the way the wind seemed to whisper secrets as it passed. But something told Lucy that this trip wouldn't just be about bikes and trails, but about something much bigger. That morning in Jaquaruna began like any other. Lucy and the group woke up early, eager to explore more of what the sandy paradise had to offer. But there was something different in the air, a feeling that Lucy couldn't shake. As the group prepared for yet another trail, Lucy felt a chill in her stomach that had nothing to do with the adrenaline of adventure. They set off, the sound of motorcycles cutting through the morning silence, leaving a trail of golden dust behind them. The dunes stretched on endlessly, as if they were inviting Lucy to a destination she couldn't foresee. And it was there, amidst this almost surreal scenery, she saw him for the first time. He was standing next to a black motorcycle, the sand sticking to his boots, his gaze lost on the horizon. There was something that immediately caught Lucy's eye. Perhaps it was the way he seemed so at ease in the environment, as if he were part of the desert itself, or perhaps it was the smile he flashed in her direction, a smile that seemed to hold 1,000 stories. The group stopped, and soon they were all talking. They discovered that his name was Rafael, a lone traveler who traveled around Brazil on his motorcycle, always in search of new places to explore. He had that carefree yet intense way about him that made Lucy feel an immediate connection. As the day progressed, Lucy and Rafael found themselves side by side on the trail, exchanging glances and smiles, as if they were the only ones in that vast desert of sand. There was a palpable energy between them, tension that only increased as the sun went down, dyeing the sky orange and pink. And it was that night, under the starry sky of Jaquaruna, that they sat down to talk. Away from the rest of the group, who were camped a little further on, Lucy and Rafael talked about their lives, their dreams, and what had brought them here. With every word, every exchange of glances, Lucy felt like she was falling in love. But along with that came fear. Fear that this connection was something fleeting as the shooting stars that crossed the sky. She knew she was getting involved too quickly, but there was something about Rafael, something she couldn't ignore. And it was then, in that moment of vulnerability, that she opened up to him, talking about her fears, her doubts, and what she was really looking for on this trip. Rafael, for his part, was also honest. He told her about his wandering life, places he'd visited, and the people he'd met along the way. But he made it clear that he had never felt anything like that, so intensely and so quickly. Anyone. And so, amid the silence of the night and the twinkling of the stars, they sealed a tacit agreement. They didn't know what the future held, but they were buying into the idea of finding out together. The next few days in Jaquaruna were like a dream that Lucy didn't want to wake up. She and Rafael became inseparable, exploring the trails, talking late into the night, and discovering little beauties hidden in that magical place. Each sunset seemed more beautiful than the last, and each conversation brought them even closer. But like every dream, there was a shadow hanging over them, a reality that Lucy tried to ignore but knew she would eventually have to face. One morning, while sitting on the edge of a dune watching the sun rise, Raphael cut through the silence with a question that Lucy dreaded hearing. "Lucy, what will happen when this trip is over, and when everyone goes back to their lives?" Lucy remained silent, staring at the horizon, feeling the weight of his words. She knew she couldn't stay in Jaquaruna forever. At some point, they would continue to return to their normal lives, to their routines and responsibilities. But the thought of leaving Raphael behind seemed unbearable. She sighed, trying to find the right words. "I don't know, Raphael. I just know that what I'm feeling here with you is real. But at the same time, I'm afraid that, outside of here, everything will change." Raphael agreed, understanding exactly what she meant. "I feel the same way, Lucy. I've never met someone like you, and I don't want that to happen. But I also know that life out there can be different and complicated." It was then that the tension they had been trying to avoid finally exploded. Raphael spoke about his desire to continue traveling, following his wandering life on the roads of Brazil. He didn't know if he was ready to settle down in one place or with one person, no matter how strongly he felt about Lucy. Lucy, on the other hand, had a stable life in the city, with a job she loved and friends she didn't want to leave. The idea of dropping everything to follow Raphael seemed both tempting and frightening. And so, in the midst of so many uncertainties, feelings that had previously been only of joy and motivation were treated with fear and doubt. That evening, after a more intense hike, Raphael moved a little away from the group, clearly shaken. Lucy followed him, sensing that something big was about to happen. And it was there, under the moonlight, that he finally confessed. "Lucy, I love you, but I don't know if I'm ready to change my whole life. I'm torn between my feelings for you and my desire for freedom." Raphael's confession left Lucy speechless. She loved him too, but the idea of a relationship full of uncertainties and possible goodbyes scared her to death. They stood there in silence, both struggling with their emotions, until Raphael held her hand, looking deep into her eyes. "Lucy, I don't know how it's going to be, but I want to try. I want to see how far this can take us, even if the future is uncertain." It was a moment of pure vulnerability for both of them, and Lucy knew that this decision would be the turning point in their lives. She could choose to take a risk and move on with Raphael, even if there were no guarantees, or she could return to her safe life in the city, but with the certainty that she would miss out on something unique and special. Lucy spent an entire sleepless night reliving every moment she had spent with Raphael and pondering what he had here. The love she felt for him was so intense that it seemed impossible to move on without him. But at the same time, the uncertainty about the future made her uneasy. She was torn between the desire to live that love and the fear of losing everything she had built. The next day, as the group prepared for another hike, Lucy moved away, looking for a moment of solitude to organize her thoughts. Sitting on top of a dune, observing the vastness of Jaquaruna, she reflected on her choices. That place, which had once seemed just a setting for an adventure, now became the stage for a decision that could change her life forever. It was then that an idea occurred to her. Perhaps the answer lay not in choosing between love and her life in the city, but in finding a balance between the two. She didn't have to give up everything she had to be with Raphael, nor did she have to give him up to keep her life. But for that to happen, they would both need to make concessions and be spending to face the difficulties together. With this new perspective, Lucy climbed down the dune and returned to the camp. She found Raphael alone, tinkering with his motorcycle, clearly still shaken by the conversation the night before. She moved, her heart beating fast, and when he caught her gaze, she felt a surge of emotion. "Raphael, I've thought a lot about what you said, and I love you too. I don't know what it's going to be like, or if we'll get through it, but I want to try. I want to be with you, even if it means we have to deal with distance and uncertainty." Raphael was silent for a moment, as if processing her words. Then a shy smile appeared on his face. "Lucy, I want that too. I want to find out how we can make it work, even if it's hard, because what I feel for you is real, and I don't want to give that up." They spent the rest of the day together, discussing how they could make the relationship work. We talked about visiting each other regularly, about finding ways to keep the connection alive, even when we were in different places. And most importantly, I talked about what really mattered, the love I felt for each other, and the willingness to fight for. That afternoon marked a profound change for Lucy and Raphael. They didn't have all the answers, but they wanted to face whatever came their way. The trails in Jaquaruna, which had previously been just a backdrop for the adventure, now symbolized the challenges they would face together. Each dune overcome, each bend in the sandy roads, became a metaphor for the obstacles they might encounter on the way. Lucy felt stronger and more determined than ever. She knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face every challenge alongside Raphael. And for the first time in a long time, I felt that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, following a path that made her heart beat stronger. That night, under the starry sky of Jaquaruna, they sat together in silence, just enjoying each other's presence. There were no more doubts, just the certainty that, whatever happened, they would face everything together. And it was in this moment of tranquility and complicity that Lucy realized that sometimes life takes us to unexpected places, but that these places can be exactly where we need to be to find happiness. As the days went by, Lucy and Raphael found a new routine in Jaquaruna. Each trail became more than just an adventure. It was precious time spent together, learning more about themselves and what a real relationship could be. However, as the trip drew to a close, the weight of reality began to take its toll. The last day in Jaquaruna dawned with a special glow, as if the universe itself was aware of the importance of that moment. Lucy and Raphael knew that I had to enjoy every second, because soon the trail we were walking together would turn into a path of uncertainty. The group decided to hike. The final, most challenging part of the journey would take them to the highest point in the region, where they could see the entire vastness of Jaquaruna. The route was difficult, with steep dunes and treacherous curves, but Lucy and Raphael were sure to reach the top together. It was a symbol of what they had achieved and what they were still willing to face. Climb was tense, each meter requiring physical and mental effort. But with each obstacle overcome, Lucy felt that she was not only climbing a dune, but also overcoming the fears and doubts she had carried throughout her life. Raphael, always by her side, encouraged her, and the smile they exchanged with each victory was a reminder of how much they had grown together. When I finally reached the top, the view that awaited them was breathtaking. The sandy desert stretched as far as the eye could see, a golden sea illuminated by the afternoon sun. Lucy stopped, panting, but filled with a sense of accomplishment she had never felt before. Raphael, beside her, held her hand, and the two of them stood in silence, absorbing the magnitude of that moment. It was then, looking at the majestic scenery, that Lucy saw something that made her shudder. All the beauty and tranquility of Jaquaruna contrasted with the reality that soon awaited them. That would be the last day they would spend together before they parted, each going back to their respective lives. Fear of parting, she had so far managed to avoid, finally hit her hard. Raphael seemed to feel the same. He turned to Lucy, his gaze serious but full of tenderness. "Lucy, I know we're about to go back to the real world and that everything might be different. But I want you to know that whatever happens, these days we've spent together have changed my life. You changed my life." Lucy felt a tear run down her cheek, but it wasn't from sadness. It was from an emotion so intense that she could hardly put it into words. She knew that, even if the future was uncertain, what they had experienced in Jaquaruna was real and profound. And more than that, it had given her a strength and courage she didn't even know she possessed. She held Raphael's hands and, looking directly into his eyes, said, "Raphael, what I feel for you is stronger than any fear. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I'm willing to fight for us. And whatever path we take, I know it will be worth it." The moment was charged with emotion. The hot desert wind blew as if to bless their decision, and the two of them embraced, feeling that this was the climax not only of their trip, but also of the emotional journey they had been on together. Lucy knew that, even if there were challenges ahead, she and Raphael were ready to face them together. As the sun began to set, dyeing the sky orange and pink, Lucy and Raphael made their way down the dune hand in hand, aware that the most difficult trail was yet to come. But they also knew that if they had each other, they could overcome anything, and with this certainty, they set off on the path back to the camp, where the future awaited them, full of promise and possibilities. The walk back to the campsite was marked by a comfortable silence between Lucy and Raphael, both immersed in their thoughts. The final trail had been a kind of rite of passage, and now, as they walked back, they knew that the next step would be to face the reality that awaited them outside Jaquaruna. But unlike before, they now felt stronger, more connected, and ready to face whatever came their way. At the campsite, the group prepared to say goodbye. The bikes had been checked in, the equipment put away, and the sun was setting over the horizon, bringing a sense of melancholy and closure. Lucy felt the weight of the moment on her chest, but at the same time, there was a peace there, as if she knew that everything had happened exactly as it should. Raphael, always attentive, noticed Lucy's expression and sat down, wrapping her in a tight hug, as if he wanted to imprint that moment in his memory forever. "Lucy, I'll never forget what we experienced here. And even if life takes us down different paths, I want you to know that I'll always be rooting for you, wherever you are." Lucy conveyed, sensing the sincerity in his words. "Raphael, I feel the same way. What we experienced here in Jaquaruna was special, something that will stay with me forever. And no matter where life takes us, I'll always remember it, remember you." The farewell was silent, full of meaning. With the sky already dark, the group got on their bikes and began the return journey. The sandy trail that had once seemed challenging now seemed a little easier, perhaps because Lucy felt that she had somehow overcome not only the physical difficulties, but also the emotional obstacle that had held her back for so long. As she rode her motorcycle through the sands of Jaquaruna, with Raphael right behind her, Lucy felt more alive than ever. She knew that the journey with Raphael had not yet been planned, but she was aware that the next chapter would be different, full of new adventures and challenges. But for the first time in a long time, she was ready for whatever came. As they reached the point where the group would part, the mood was one of farewell, but also of hope. Lucy and Raphael looked at each other one last time before going their separate ways. There were no grandiose promises, just a silent agreement that, whatever happened, it would always make Jaquaruna a reference point in their lives. As Raphael walked away, Lucy felt a tear trickle down her cheek, but this time it was one of gratitude. Gratitude for having met someone who made her feel so alive, so capable of loving and of being loved. She knew that, from that moment on, Jaquaruna wouldn't just be a memory, but a symbol of everything that was possible when you gave yourself over to the present, without fear of the future. The drive home was uneventful, but Lucy felt that something inside her had changed forever. She knew that no matter how uncertain life was, there was something that would always be with her. The courage to live intensely, to love without reserve, and to face the unknown with an open heart. And so, with the wind from the road caressing her face, Lucy moved on, leaving Jaquaruna behind, but carrying with her all the lessons, emotions, and, above all, the love she had discovered amidst the sands of that paradise. Now Lucy was back in her town, in her routine, but with a new perspective. Things that had once seemed simple or trivial now had a new meaning, as if every detail of her life was imbued with the colors and sensations of Jaquaruna. The love she and Raphael shared during those days continued to warm her heart, and even though distance separated them physically, Lucy knew they would always be connected in some way. Over time, she and Raphael kept in touch, talking whenever they could, sharing their days and their adventures. There was constant longing, of course, but there was also the certainty that when we were ready, we could meet again and continue where we left off. And it was with this certainty that Lucy followed his life, knowing that true love wasn't something that simply disappeared with distance. On the contrary, it was something that grew stronger over time, beating on memories and hopes for the future. A few months had passed since Lucy and Raphael left Jaquaruna. Lucy's daily routine had normal aspects, but inside her, something had changed profoundly. Jaquaruna and the love she had found there had become a constant source of strength, inspiration in her life. Every time she got on her bike, felt the wind on her face, and closed her eyes, she was transported back to the heartfelt trails of golden sand and the memories that warmed her heart. Lucy and Raphael continued to communicate, but life took its natural course, its ups and downs, demands, and challenges. There were days when the distance seemed like an insurmountable abyss. On others, a simple message, phone call, or even a photo was enough to rekindle the flame they kept burning. They were both aware that time and distance could change many things. But what they experienced in Jaquaruna was too special to be forgotten. One day, just as the sun was beginning to set on the town where Lucy lived and was bathed in soft light, she received a message from Raphael. He was offering a new trip, a new destination to explore, and this time he wanted Lucy to be with him. "What do you think about doing another hike together? A new place, just the two of us, to relive the adventure," said the message, accompanied by a photo of a stunning landscape. Lucy communicated, feeling her heart beat faster. The idea of embarking on yet another adventure alongside Raphael filled her with motivation and hope. She knew that difficulties still existed, that life was not a fairy tale, but she also knew that, with Raphael by her side, any challenge could be faced. She responded enthusiastically, already imagining the new memories we would create together. After all, Jaquaruna had only been the beginning. Life still had so much to offer, and Lucy was more than willing to embrace every opportunity, every new chapter, with the same passion she had discovered on the sandy trails. And so, as night fell, Lucy began to plan her next trip with a heart full of anticipation and a mind full of dreams. Jaquaruna, for her, would always be a special place, a milestone in her journey, but now she was ready to move on, taking with her everything she had learned and experienced. The future was uncertain, but Lucy knew that wherever she went, she would be ready to face anything. Because after all, the real adventure was just beginning. And she couldn't wait to see what fate had in store for her and Raphael. And with that certainty, Lucy sped her motorcycle down the road, with the wind in her face and her heart full of love, ready for another incredible journey. And who knows what lay ahead? One thing was certain: Lucy was ready to live every moment intensely, with the courage and passion that had been discovered in Jaquaruna. End of story.